Survival horror has been around for over 30 years. What's considered to be the first survival horror game is 1989's Sweet Home by Takura Fujiwara, who later went on to cement survival horror as a genre with 1996's Resident Evil. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. But I am not here to give you a documentary on survival horror. I'm here to talk about something a little more personal, a little more intimate. That is the influence of survival horror on my youth. Now, I've been playing video games since I was probably 2 or 3 years old. One of the first consoles I ever got was actually a Nintendo 64. And though I didn't have many of the horror-related titles like Doom 64, I did in fact have a game with a little bit of horror in it. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, one of my favorite games ever, has a little bit of, has a touch of horror in it. I remember I was trying to find the Hylian shield when I was still a little Link, and my whole goal was to go to the Kakarika village graveyard and start desecrating graves so I can get what is rightfully mine, because the hero of time needs it. Then I dropped down the wrong grotto and I'm introduced to a re-dead. The mere sight of it unnerved me. And then I decided to lock onto it like the foolish 5-year-old I was and proceeded to hear a blood-curdling scream, and I was frozen in place, not just in game, but in the real world. To say it scared me to death is putting it lightly. But being a kid that young, that was about the extent I would see in terms of horror in video games, until a few years later. I became the proud owner of a PS2. Shout out to Dad for getting me Grand Theft Auto 3 on my birthday. But it was after I got my PS2 that I actually found my first survival horror game, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Quick side note, Code Veronica is a very underrated Resident Evil game. Capcom, I'm begging you, please remake this game. I need it. And as a kid, when I played Code Veronica, it was very foreign to me. I'd never seen anything like it. There were tank controls, there was resource management. Starting out, you had but a measly knife, and there were limited saves. So when I first played the game, I promptly got mauled to death trying to fight back, but once I realized I could just run, I proceeded to go through the door, and then I met the true horror of Resident Evil Code Veronica, which was Canadians.
I said I was sorry.
Zombies for the first time in video games really sent chills down my spine. Like, I was also painfully bad at puzzles, so that kind of heightened the tension a bit, but when you're a kid and you spend more time spamming the X button and not reading, that's to be expected. Not too long after, I eventually got to play Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. Holy shit, that is probably one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. Though Resident Evil 5 has a special place in my heart, the regenerators definitely kept me up at night far too many times. Another game that scared the living daylights out of me was Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil. I remember begging my dad to buy me Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil because he had showed me Doom when I was probably 3 or 4, and I was a big fan of that game. I loved it, and I was expecting Resurrection of Evil to be just like it. Boy, was I wrong. And the first time I saw a flaming skull, thy britches filled with an ungodly amount of shit. I was terrified. So terrified, in fact, I literally shut the whole console off. I didn't just take the game out. I shut the whole console off, and I did not play that game for probably a month or two. Resurrection of Evil was one of the first games I played, along with Doom 3 in the future, that the games were truly dark. And, you know, me being a small kid at like 6 or 7, I was afraid of the dark. So these games constantly had me on edge. I probably would have had a heart attack if I had played Doom 3 when I was that young and saw the spiders. But, you know, some years would go by and I really wasn't playing horror games that much. But there was one thing I was doing, and that was watching a whole lot of YouTube. I know by my analytics that the majority of you guys are either around my age, if not a little older, so for the younger audience, around 2012, 2013 was really when Let's Plays started to kick off. Like, people were making gaming content back then, but you didn't really see people just strictly playing something like Amnesia: The Dark Descent and uploading their time playing it. That was very new and frankly groundbreaking for the time. So I was watching all this stuff a lot. Markiplier, PewDiePie, Yamimash, Cryotic. Yikes. But a lot of these guys were playing a lot of the same games. 2 games in particular I was absolutely engrossed with: Slender the 8 Pages and Amnesia: The Dark Descent. One of the things that drew me into Amnesia and Slender was, unlike Doom or Resident Evil, you could not fight back against the enemies in this game. These were not just mindless enemies that were in your way. These were enemies that if you did not play your cards right or were fucking around, it was game over. For example, Slender Man. It's practically a race against the inevitable. He gets more aggressive with each page you find, and it's only a matter of time before he catches you. And in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, there are monsters that patrol the area, and you have to hide from them. But the more time you spend in the dark, the lower your sanity gets. This is not good. These games, along with, Cry of Fear, played a major influence on me as a teenager. I mean, shit, some of the earliest videos I have is just me playing Vanish, Cry of Fear, Slender, Amnesia. Hell, I even have a video where I made my sister play Five Nights at Freddy's. Now we're at the point where we should discuss the million-dollar question. How did survival horror play such a massive role on me in my youth? It got me into making videos. Watching other people play these games, especially when I didn't have a PC to play them myself, really helped me enjoy a game that I otherwise wouldn't play or even know about. When I finally got a laptop and I was able to play these games, I decided that I wanted to record and upload them. In hindsight, letting 15-year-old me with a god-awful laptop mic just screaming bloody murder at 10 o'clock at night in the dining room probably wasn't the best idea, but it was fun. Hell, I still have the laptop. And the channel's turning 11 in March, and to be honest, I'm glad I never stopped making videos because I genuinely enjoy doing it. Though I've taken quite a few breaks and disappeared for a little bit on occasion, and my upload schedule is more of a suggestion, I wouldn't go back and change anything because my time on this platform has been nothing short of a journey. I've been very fortunate to have met a lot of people and been able to have friendships that I probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for wanting to make videos. Sorry for the long-winded rant. I've been wanting to make this video for a while. So yeah, long story short, if it wasn't for survival horror, I probably wouldn't be making videos on YouTube. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, and while you're at it, subscribe. If you want to help support the channel in another way, I do have a Patreon. The link for that is in the description. Please consider joining that if you feel like it. Also, join my Discord. Anyway, have a good one.